Tech, and then Oklahoma, Iowa State in Ames. Let's start with the game that's not getting a lot of attention. And let's start with Oklahoma on the road against Ames, and both teams in desperate need of a win.
Yeah, they both really do. Iowa State finds a way to lose some games, and they're just so snake bit. Oklahoma needs it badly because they've got to create some kind of momentum. They're so disjointed. They've got the big win that they've had and scored some points, but they need some consistency in Norman, and they need some consistency in Ames. I wonder how Iowa State will find ways to lose games down the stretch because they found some unique ones to do it early on.
Yeah, this ought to be an interesting game. I mean, Oklahoma coming off the bye week, Iowa State coming off the bye week. Yes, ought to make for, a great contest where I think there's a great case to be made for, either side in this one. I think, we're going to do our picks, obviously. I'll go in spoiler. I'm going with the Cyclones here by a skinny margin. I just think that they're kind of due, and I don't fully trust Oklahoma just yet. But, yeah, it's a great opportunity for the Cyclones. And if Oklahoma doesn't win this game, I mean, they're basically in the cellar of the Big 12, which is not a place we've seen them very often. So great opportunity for ISU, but it's still Oklahoma. I mean, the Cyclones are going to have to play much better and much cleaner on offense. Their defense is going to keep them in the game, but very curious about this one and not getting a lot of attention. Doesn't really deserve a lot of attention, but I do think it's an interesting matchup.
Here's a stat on Oklahoma and Iowa State. And, yeah, Oklahoma has been dominant, has been one of the great dynasties over and over, the Blue Bloods in college football since 1962. Iowa State has beaten Oklahoma 3 times. 2 of them in the last 5 years. 2017, they won in Norman, and then back 2 years ago during the COVID year, they won in Ames 37-30. Both of those were pretty high-scoring games. So this has been 78 wins to 7 and 2 ties. No matter what, but recently, Matt Campbell, can you imagine, would you ever have imagined that Iowa State, if they do not win this weekend at home, would be 0-5 in the Big 12?
No, not at all. I mean, you got to find one, right? I mean, you're going to find a couple, especially playing close games like they always do and have for years, but 0-5 in the league, not at all.
And that's old Iowa State. It's not that unfamiliar. I mean, let's be real about it. It's not like they've been some juggernaut for 20 years. I mean, they've had success under Matt Campbell, but that's been like a few Big 12 wins a year. I mean, they've increasingly been more and more competitive, but I think it would be shocking to see this current Matt Campbell in Iowa State program at 0-5, but given the league and how strong it is, to say okay, who could end up being 0-5? Your first bet's Kansas. Well, that's not happening. So what would be your second bet? I mean, probably West Virginia. After that, I mean, where do you go? You wouldn't necessarily go to Iowa State, but kind of looking at their team and looking at the way the league's formed this year, while surprising, somebody has to be that team, and they can't score enough to win these close games. And so it's ended up being them. And I just think that they're the product of not being not having a senior-laden team like they did last year and just being stuck in a league where everybody's pretty good to maybe even better than pretty good. And they'll get 1 or 2 before it's all said and done. They'll beat West Virginia. I don't have any question about that. And I think they might get one this weekend too.
I know that they weren't supposed to be who they've been, or was in a couple of different ways, but they've been to 5 consecutive bowl games under Matt Campbell. They played for a Big 12 championship under Matt Campbell. I knew this year wouldn't be quite the same, but maybe the bottom level of the Big 12, a lot of teams like TCU, et cetera, are better, and now they find themselves, I could not have imagined they would be 0-5 if they don't win at home this weekend against Oklahoma. We'll figure out what the Sooners do with Dylan Gabriel back in the fold again.